We begin with the federal government taking steps to deal with a mounting number of Canadians complaining about airlines. The estimated backlog of complaints related to delayed, cancelled flights or lost luggage is up to 42,000. Today, the Liberals announced $75.9 million to try to clear that backlog. Omar Alghabra is the Minister of Transport. Minister, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, David.
So you're hiring 200 extra employees for the Canada Transportation Agency. How quickly will they be in place?
David, today's announcement was to provide financial support to the Canadian Transportation Agency so they can deal with the backlog. This is part of an overall package that we're working on to modernize and strengthen the protections that we have for passenger. We're also working on providing the CTA, the Canadian Transportation Agency, with additional authorities and tools to help improve the efficiency of how they process these complaints. It'll be up to the CTA to hire and to expedite the processing of these complaints. We know that the last couple of years have been really hard on the sector and travelers particularly, and we want to do everything we can to learn from what had happened over the last couple of years, but also to improve our processes.
Okay, so the CTA will do the hiring, so the timeline question really goes to them to some degree. But I just wonder, Minister, given the job market and what we're hearing about labor shortages, how confident are you the CTA can get these people? Because handling complaints between airlines and customers doesn't necessarily sound like a whack of fun. So how confident are you they can even staff up in time to deal with this quickly?
David, I've been having conversations with the chair of the CTA, France Pigeot, on regularly. I seeked her advice and input on what we can do to help her and her team resolve these issues. And I am confident that they're going to do everything they can with this additional resources to expedite these complaints. But again, David, for me, ultimately, I want to reduce the number of complaints. I want to avoid having complaints. And that's why we're going to strengthen the Bill of Rights for passengers, and we're going to create an incentive for airlines that if there's a complaint, that they deal with it themselves instead of deferring the passenger to the CTA.
So how would that work? Because I know this is something you talked about creating incentives. We're going to reform, bring in reforms to give the CTA more powers to further protect passenger rights and put more responsibility on the airlines to compensate passengers before they file a complaint. So what exactly can we expect on those points, Minister?
Well, look, I want to be careful because the package needs to be tabled in Parliament, which I am committed that it will be tabled this spring. But I'll give you ideas. For example, if you create an incentive for the airline where it would be a lot more costly for them if the complaint had to be dealt with by the CTA, I think airlines would find it beneficial that they find a way to settle with the passenger. Also, to avoid confusion, there's been what I believe some ambiguity about the rules, or some people trying to take advantage of perhaps some ambiguity about the rules. We're going to make sure that we clarify these rules. Thirdly, we want to simplify the process. If a passenger chooses to go to the CTA, we want to give the CTA more authorities so they can handle these investigations at a much quicker pace, so it doesn't take as long as it had in the past.
So that first one seems like a key one, creating a cost incentive for the airlines to fix it quickly and fix it themselves before ending up in the queue that is causing so much frustration for people.
Correct. It will, I would say, fundamentally change how we are dealing with our system now, and it's important. Again, David, I've been talking about this asymmetry that exists between the power of the airlines and the rights of passenger. A passenger who's sitting on board of a plane has very little recourse to deal with a complaint. If their luggage is lost, they have very little recourse to get that luggage as quickly as possible. So what we want to do as a government, we want to rebalance that asymmetry. We want to make sure that passengers have rights, their rights are protected, and that the airlines are doing their best to protect the rights. And let me just say, I know that everyone who works at airlines are doing their best to service their customers. I know they believe it's in their best interest to have a satisfied customers. So we need to work together at achieving this common goal.
Right, but before you can get to that common goal, there are 42,000 complaints in the queue based on what you said today. And we've heard wait times of up to 18 months for some of these to be dealt with. So what's the metric for success? How will we know if this is working?
Well, today I announced, David, $76 million to the CTA over 3 years. That's $25 million. That's, by the way, an increase of 73% of their annual budget. And that's a significant investment for them to add more resources. They're going to hire more people. They're going to simplify the process. And obviously, the outcome is that they deal with complaints a lot faster. I expect that they will at least more than double, if maybe hopefully triple, the speed of their ability to process complaints.
So does this mean a 6-month benchmark to deal with complaints, 90 days within a year? I mean, what's the target you want to see as minister?
I want to avoid speaking on behalf of the CTA. However, David, my expectation is that first, to reduce the number of complaints. Second, that people's rights are protected. Third, that complaints are dealt with as quickly as possible.
Right, but it's your money, right? Well, not your money, it's taxpayers' money, but you're the minister who announced it. It's like, clearly you must have a goal in mind when you put $75 million on the table of what you want to achieve. So, you know, in terms of so the public can know whether this plan is working as intended, what can we look for as a benchmark for success in dealing with complaints?
I tell you, the plan is to see the CTA deal with more than about between 25,000 complaints a year, as opposed to what they are able to deal with now, which is less than maybe 8,000 to 10,000 complaints a year.
Okay, so within a year, but that still leaves, even with that, the tripling of it to say 25,000, as you say, there's 42,000 in the queue. Have you got a sense of how long it might take to clear up the backlog? Because it's spring break right now, Minister, so there's probably more complaints coming, and then summer vacation season. I mean, how long before these 42,000 might be dealt with, do you think?
Again, David, you're asking me to speak on behalf of the CTA. I could tell you and your viewers that my expectation that I communicate clearly with the CTA that I expect these complaints to be dealt as quickly as possible. And today we announced that we're providing the CTA the resources they need.
Okay, is that permanent funding, or is that just for 3 years, or is this a permanent increase in the CTA capacity?
As you know, in government financial cycles, we always have them over a span of years. This is a 3-year commitment. We'll see what we need at the end of 3 years, particularly, hopefully, when the new system is implemented. But for now, this is a 3-year commitment, which is common for investments that governments make.
Okay, and just one final point. You've telegraphed that there's going to be a tabling of legislation coming with changes to change the passengers' rights and to give the CTA more power. You say that'll be tabled this spring. Will that be in place and enforceable by the summer travel season? Because that seems like a key inflection point in getting ahead of this problem.
David, again, I would like to see it passed as quickly as possible. Forgive me if I'm unable to make predictions on behalf of the House of Commons, given that we have a minority parliament. But look, there's a process, and we're going to have to go through the process. There might be some regulatory changes after the legislative changes, but we're pushing as fast as we can. We would like to see changes implemented this year.
Right, okay. And I appreciate you can't control the House of Commons, but hopefully by the summer, but if not, then by the end of the year. Is that a fair understanding of what your intentions are?
I would really like to see changes implemented by the end of this year, the latest.
Okay, Minister Alghabra, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, David.